Hello, my name is Catherine Wright and I'm going to talk to you about uveitis from a patient's perspective. So I have no conflicts of interest at all. I'm 48 years of age. I have two children, a girl and a boy, and I live in Belfast in Northern Ireland. So just to give you a bit of context, I was diagnosed when I was 18 months old. So that was in 1975, gosh, a long time ago. But I think my path to diagnosis was a relatively easy one. My mum had noticed over a period of about 2 weeks that I was starting to be reluctant to go from sit to stand. I had a very hot, swollen knee on one side, a swollen elbow, swollen jaw, and very hot and swollen and painful and puffy fingers. So she talked to our next door neighbour, who was a paediatrician, and he said, I think your daughter's got juvenile arthritis. She's showing all the signs. I also had rashes and quite spiking fevers and temperatures. He said, I think she needs to go and see an adult rheumatologist. We didn't have paediatric rheumatology in Northern Ireland at the time. And he also flagged, get her eyes checked too. That he had read somewhere that juvenile arthritis can affect the eyes, that it's a silent thing, that there's no signs and symptoms, but you need to get screened for eye disease. How correct he was, and my journey with ophthalmology and rheumatology began. At the time, we lived a good 1.5 hours drive from Belfast. I was the youngest of 4 children, no major inflammatory arthritis in the family at all. I also don't remember too much about that time, but I asked my mum recently and she said your dad would have taken you to all of your appointments. He worked in Belfast, so he was more familiar, and that we would go from level 6 in the hospital at rheumatology to level 8 in the hospital at ophthalmology for my uveitis, and that they always lost my notes in between. I would have attended rheumatology every 4 months at that time and ophthalmology every 3 months to get my eyes screened. And this was for about 15 years, so a considerable amount of time out of my school life. I do remember very, very vividly being the only child in the room at that stage and feeling like the only child in the room and feeling significantly younger than a lot of other people. It's probably where the passion for the job that I do today comes from and stems from, if I were to look back from a psychology point of view. I work for Versus Arthritis, which is a charity in the UK, and I work as a service manager in the Young People and Families Service, and that's about providing support for children, families and young people at time of diagnosis. I work very closely with the paediatric rheumatology team in Belfast. Medication for my arthritis became the norm. I honestly knew nothing else, and significantly my parents never felt restricted or made me feel restricted by my arthritis or my uveitis at all. We never talked about it as a negative. It was always just something that you did. You went to the hospital appointments, you took whatever medication you needed, you took whatever eye drops you needed, and that was it. Life continued on, and life was full of possibilities and optimism, and we were optimistic about the future. I was always very sporty. I was encouraged to continue down that path. In terms of my uveitis, I still don't like eye drops. I hate the dilating ones that you have to take before you get your eyes examined. Uveitis has significantly affected my sight in one eye. I have a pupil that sticks constantly and never dilates, and as my mum said, I always have a very, very dull eye on the left-hand side in comparison to the right, and I would be very, very significantly light sensitive a lot of the time. The constant steroid drops obviously meant over the years that I developed a cataract, and then also a lovely thing which I'm sure you all are very aware of, called a band keratopathy, particularly pleasant to have that removed, and I am being sarcastic here because I think they have to fiddle about with your cornea, and I find it really quite painful. Uveitis is a weird one. For me, it wasn't painful at all, and I know that's why you need to be screened for it, because it's so asymptomatic and can cause such problems if it isn't controlled and looked after. You're just constantly told, put this eye drop in 4 times a day, your pressure's rising, change to this eye drop. It just becomes the norm. I really didn't clock that it would affect my sight longer term, and it has. My prescription is so significantly different in either eye that, sometimes when I put my new glasses on, I feel a bit like I'm on a boat and can feel quite dizzy and sick. In terms of learning over the years, I've found that with my job, it is so important, and from my experience of being a young person with arthritis, it's so important to put young people together, to give them a community that they feel that they can support each other within, When you're diagnosed with arthritis or uveitis as a child, it can feel, a very isolating place. And it's so important that we get young people together and they feel normal and they don't feel that they're on their own. Uveitis hasn't caused me any pain, but it has been a pain and something that has affected a lot of the aspects of my life. My vision has been really blurry at times, very light sensitive, and the constant drops have obviously led to band keratopathies and cataract surgery. But for me, I suppose, being the optimistic person I am, I have a blinder of an eye on the other side, and that has obviously kept me going. So thank you very much for allowing me to talk about my experience of uveitis today. Thank you. Bye.